Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the dynamic president of Burkina Faso and Africa's youngest leader, has swiftly emerged as a symbol of hope, resilience, and Pan-African pride. His leadership, marked by bold decisions, decisive actions, and an unyielding commitment to Burkina Faso's sovereignty, has garnered widespread admiration across the continent. This unprecedented support transcends national boundaries, resonating deeply with citizens disillusioned by traditional governance. Traoré's rising popularity was vividly demonstrated during his recent visit to Ghana for President John Mahama's inauguration, where his presence ignited enthusiastic cheers from the crowd, overshadowing other leaders. Similarly, in Kenya, a country grappling with economic mismanagement and corruption under President William Ruto's administration, citizens have embraced Traoré's image as a symbol of hope, even painting his likeness on public buses, a rare and powerful endorsement of a foreign leader. Traoré's appeal stems from his rejection of conventional governance models, heavily influenced by Western institutions, and his efforts to reshape Burkina Faso's political and economic trajectory. Since assuming power in a military coup in 2022, he has implemented transformative policies that prioritize self-reliance and economic nationalism over external dependence. Unlike many African leaders who remain tied to Western financial institutions, Traoré has boldly rejected loans from the International Monetary Fund (IMF) and the World Bank, declaring that Africa does not need Europe, America, or these global financial bodies. This stance represents a radical shift toward financial independence and sovereignty, resonating with a continent eager to break free from historical cycles of exploitation. Drawing comparisons to Burkina Faso's iconic revolutionary leader, Thomas Sankara, Traoré embodies a vision of Pan-African self-sufficiency and empowerment. Sankara, revered as Africa's Che Guevara, championed anti-imperialist policies and sought to make Burkina Faso self-sufficient by reducing reliance on foreign aid and fostering domestic industry. Traoré has revitalized these principles, initiating reforms that prioritize local development and resource control. Under his leadership, Burkina Faso's GDP has risen significantly from $18.8 billion to $22.1 billion. He has restructured government expenditures, cutting the salaries of ministers and parliamentarians by 30%, while increasing civil servant wages by 50%. Moreover, Traoré has addressed long-standing economic challenges with practical solutions. He has paid off Burkina Faso's local debts, demonstrating fiscal discipline rarely seen in the region. To ensure the nation benefits from its natural wealth, he banned the export of unprocessed gold, curbing the exploitation of resources by foreign corporations. In a bid to strengthen domestic industry, he established Burkina Faso's first tomato processing plants, reducing dependence on imported food products and creating jobs for local communities. These transformative actions, rooted in a vision of African self-determination, have positioned Traoré as a leader whose influence extends far beyond Burkina Faso. His approach offers a blueprint for the continent's economic liberation and underscores the potential of visionary leadership to inspire collective pride and action across Africa. As Traoré's legacy grows, many see him not only as a leader for Burkina Faso, but as a beacon of hope for a new era of African independence and progress. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso and Africa's youngest leader, is solidifying his place as a symbol of hope and resistance across the continent. His bold initiatives and decisive leadership have made him a beacon of inspiration for millions of Africans disillusioned by decades of corruption, foreign exploitation, and leaders who prioritize external interests over their people. Traoré's transformative policies focus on reclaiming sovereignty, boosting local economies, and dismantling neo-colonial structures, positioning him as a revolutionary force in African politics. One of Traoré's most ambitious projects is the construction of the Ouagadougou Don Sion Airport, set to open in 2025 with a capacity to handle 1 million passengers annually. This endeavor represents more than infrastructure development. It signifies a new era of self-reliance and modernization in Burkina Faso. Traoré's aggressive push for decolonization and self-determination is evident in his efforts to sever ties with France, a nation that has historically maintained economic and military dominance over its former African colonies. Alongside leaders like Mali's Assimi Goïta and Niger's Abdourahmane Tiani, Traoré has expelled French military forces, closed French-owned media outlets, and begun nationalizing key industries to ensure local control of resources. Traoré's stance against the CFA franc, a currency controlled by the French treasury that has been widely criticized for perpetuating economic dependence, underscores his commitment to true independence. By rejecting this system and banning French military operations and media channels such as RFI and France 24, he has become a hero to Africans who believe that liberation from neo-colonial influence is the first step toward genuine sovereignty. While many African leaders rely on IMF loans and Western aid to stabilize their economies, Traoré has shifted focus to local production and agricultural investment. His administration has distributed over 400 tractors, 239 tillers, 710 motor pumps, and 714 motorcycles to farmers, along with improved seeds and other essential inputs. As a result, Burkina Faso has seen significant increases in food production. Tomatoes rose from 315,000 to 360,000 metric tons, millet from 907,000 to 1.1 million metric tons, and rice from 280,000 to 326,000 metric tons between 2022 and 2024. These measures have reduced reliance on imported food, boosted employment, and strengthened local industries. Traoré has also expanded Burkina Faso's industrial capacity by inaugurating a second cotton processing plant, launching a state-of-the-art gold mine to refine gold locally, and opening the nation's first support center for artisanal cotton processing. Infrastructure development under his administration includes constructing new roads and upgrading gravel roads to paved surfaces, further modernizing the country. These advancements stand in stark contrast to the policies of many other African leaders who favor foreign investments over domestic growth. The admiration for Traoré is palpable across the continent. In Kenya, where President William Ruto's administration faces allegations of corruption and economic mismanagement, citizens have painted Traoré's image on public buses, a rare tribute to a foreign leader. Similarly, in Ghana, where former President Nana Akufo-Addo left office amid economic challenges and harsh IMF bailout conditions, many Ghanaians hope President John Mahama will follow Traoré's example of prioritizing local needs over foreign interests. This growing sentiment signals a broader shift in public expectations, as Africans begin questioning whether Western-backed governance models truly serve their interests. Traoré's rise represents a pivotal moment in African politics. His model of leadership centered on economic self-sufficiency, rejection of foreign domination, and prioritization of national development has inspired millions. As Africans grow weary of corruption, broken promises, and exploitation, they are rallying behind leaders who take bold action to improve their countries. Whether Traoré's approach will serve as a blueprint for other nations remains uncertain. But one thing is clear: a new wave of African leadership is emerging, and Captain Ibrahim Traoré is at the forefront of this revolution. The question now is whether other leaders will follow his example or continue to serve foreign interests at the expense of their people. Only time will tell, but for now, the winds of change are sweeping across Africa, with Traoré leading the charge. The overwhelming support for Captain Ibrahim Traoré in Ghana, Kenya, and across Africa is a resounding wake-up call for the continent's leaders. Citizens are growing increasingly intolerant of corrupt politicians who prioritize foreign interests over the needs of their own people. They are demanding bold, decisive, and patriotic leadership qualities that Traoré exemplifies in every aspect of his governance. His rise signals a pivotal shift in Africa's political landscape, where the era of complacent, subservient, and corrupt leadership is nearing its end. Traoré's leadership embodies a new era of African sovereignty, self-reliance, and people-centered governance. Unlike many African presidents who maintain allegiance to Western powers while their nations struggle, Traoré has made it unequivocally clear that his loyalty lies with the people of Burkina Faso. His policies reflect a fierce commitment to national pride, economic independence, and self-sufficiency. By rejecting Western aid and the debt traps of institutions like the IMF and World Bank, he has positioned himself as a revolutionary leader who prioritizes domestic investment over external dependence. Through his emphasis on agriculture, industrialization, and economic nationalism, Traoré challenges the exploitative systems that have perpetuated Africa's underdevelopment for decades. His vision resonates deeply with citizens across the continent, serving as a beacon of hope for those who aspire to see a truly independent and prosperous Africa. If other leaders fail to embrace this wave of transformation, they risk being left behind as Africa ushers in a new chapter of sovereignty, resilience, and dignity under leaders like Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Add your voice to the total liberation of Africa by leaving a comment in the comments section below. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos like this one. Let's proceed. Recent coup attempts on Captain Ibrahim Traoré's life have sent shockwaves through Burkina Faso and the wider African continent. These incidents, which highlight the dangerous challenges Traoré faces in his pursuit of a sovereign and independent Burkina Faso, have only strengthened his resolve. Fingers are now pointing towards Western powers, particularly France, and former coup leader Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, as possible actors behind these destabilization efforts. Traoré, who rose to power after a military coup in 2022, has taken unprecedented steps to break Burkina Faso's reliance on foreign powers, especially France, whose influence over its former colonies remains strong through economic and military ties. He has expelled French troops, banned French media outlets, and moved to nationalize industries previously dominated by foreign interests. These bold moves have made him a target, with many suspecting that elements within France, seeking to maintain their neo-colonial grip, are behind attempts to undermine his leadership. In addition, Traoré's reforms have disrupted the status quo within Burkina Faso itself. Former leader Damiba, ousted by Traoré in 2022, is rumored to harbor ambitions of reclaiming power. Damiba's connections with France during his time in office and his reluctance to sever ties with the West have fueled speculation that he may be colluding with foreign actors to destabilize Traoré's government. These coup attempts have not only jeopardized Traoré's life, but also represent a direct assault on the broader movement for African self-determination that he symbolizes. Despite these threats, Traoré has remained steadfast, vowing to continue his mission to decolonize Burkina Faso and empower its people. His survival amidst these challenges underscores the high stakes of his leadership, as well as the lengths to which those threatened by his vision will go to prevent Africa's march towards sovereignty. The situation serves as a stark reminder of the external and internal forces that still conspire against African leaders who dare to defy neo-colonial systems. It also highlights the growing need for vigilance and unity among African nations to safeguard the leaders driving this transformative wave of self-reliance and independence. The leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso's youngest president, represents a seismic shift in the political dynamics of West Africa. Traoré's policies, centered on sovereignty, self-reliance, and economic independence, threaten the very foundations of France's influence in the region. In response, France is allegedly using its soft power and influence over regional bodies like ECOWAS, now headed by Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to undermine Traoré and his allies in the Sahel. The CFA franc, established during colonial rule, has long been a symbol of France's continued influence over West Africa. Pegged to the euro and managed by the French treasury, this currency system effectively limits the monetary sovereignty of 14 African nations. Critics argue that the CFA franc locks these nations into economic dependence, stifling their development and perpetuating the exploitation of their natural resources. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, like Thomas Sankara before him, has openly rejected the CFA franc, describing it as a relic of colonial exploitation. His government has sought to move Burkina Faso away from this system, advocating for a regional currency that reflects the true economic interests of African nations. Traoré's stance aligns with those of Mali's Assimi Goïta and Niger's Abdourahmane Tiani, both of whom have also called for the abolition of the CFA franc. This united opposition from the alliance of Sahel states poses a direct challenge to France's economic dominance in the region. France's response to Traoré and his allies has been multifaceted, involving both covert and overt strategies to destabilize their governments. France's influence over the economic community of West African states, ECOWAS, has been particularly significant in this regard. ECOWAS, originally established to foster economic cooperation and integration among West African nations, has increasingly been used as a tool for political intervention. Under the leadership of Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, ECOWAS has taken a hardline stance against the alliance of Sahel states. In the aftermath of the military coups in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, ECOWAS, under French influence, has imposed sanctions and threatened military intervention against these nations. These actions are widely viewed as punitive measures aimed at isolating and delegitimizing the AES leaders. For instance, ECOWAS imposed economic sanctions on Niger following the ousting of its pro-Western president, Mohamed Bazoum. These sanctions have exacerbated economic hardships for ordinary citizens, creating a narrative that blames the new leadership rather than the external actors pulling the strings. Traoré and his allies have accused ECOWAS of acting as a proxy for French interests rather than serving the collective good of West African nations. They argue that the organization has failed to address the root causes of instability in the region, such as poverty, underdevelopment, and the exploitation of resources by foreign powers. Instead, ECOWAS has focused on defending the status quo, which benefits France and other Western stakeholders. France's efforts to discredit Traoré and the AES have not been limited to political and economic measures. A well-coordinated propaganda campaign has been launched to portray the Sahel leaders as destabilizing forces, framing the AES leaders as authoritarian and anti-democratic. This narrative serves to justify France's continued interference in the region, while diverting attention from its own role in perpetuating instability and underdevelopment. The alliance of Sahel states, formed by Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, represents a bold attempt to reshape the political and economic landscape of the region. By pooling their resources and aligning their policies, the AES aims to break free from the stranglehold of Western influence. Key initiatives include the development of regional currencies, investment in local industries, and joint security operations to combat terrorism without relying on foreign military forces. This vision of self-reliance and regional solidarity stands in stark contrast to the policies of ECOWAS, which remain heavily influenced by external powers. The AES leaders have called for a new Pan-Africanism that prioritizes the needs of African citizens over the interests of foreign corporations and governments. France's efforts to undermine Traoré and the AES highlight its declining influence in West Africa. The expulsion of French troops and the rejection of the CFA franc are clear signs that the era of unquestioned French dominance is coming to an end. However, this transition is not without its challenges. France, unwilling to relinquish its neo-colonial grip, is likely to continue its efforts to destabilize the region. For Traoré and his allies, the path forward requires resilience and unity. The support they have garnered from citizens across Africa suggests that their vision resonates deeply with those who have long been disillusioned with corrupt, Western-backed governments. The growing admiration for Traoré, evidenced by symbolic gestures such as his image being painted on public buses in Kenya, underscores the desire for a new kind of leadership, one that prioritizes sovereignty, self-reliance, and the welfare of the people. The battle between Captain Ibrahim Traoré and France is emblematic of a larger struggle for Africa's future. At its core, this conflict is about reclaiming sovereignty, dismantling exploitative systems like the CFA franc, and forging a path towards self-reliance and independence. France's attempts to dethrone Traoré through political, economic, and propaganda campaigns reflect its desperation to maintain control in a region that is slipping away from its grasp. As ECOWAS, under the influence of France and Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, continues to target the alliance of Sahel states, the resolve of leaders like Traoré, Gota, and Tierney remains unshaken. Their efforts to build a united and sovereign Sahel are inspiring a broader Pan-African movement, signaling the dawn of a new era. The question now is whether other African nations will join this wave of transformation or remain tethered to the legacy of neo-colonialism. The choices made in the coming years will determine whether Africa can finally break free from external domination and fulfill its potential as a continent of hope, prosperity, and sovereignty. Tell us what you think in the comments section below. We explore the rich history, culture, and the ongoing struggle for sovereignty in Africa. Join us in this important conversation by subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you're not just staying informed, you're becoming part of a movement dedicated to reclaiming Africa's rightful place on the global stage. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Let's work together to spread knowledge and inspire change. Thanks for watching.